Refugees are welcome here. turn on the mic. On the second mic. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, folks, good folks of Edinburgh, Scotland and our fantastic United Kingdom. Thank you so much for coming along today. You know, it's going to be an exciting day, and it's a day in history because never before in the history of Edinburgh has there been an event like this, which I'm calling an immigration restriction event. This is the first ever, so thank you for coming along. It's wonderful for you to see this. I'm sorry about the problems getting here, but that was a last minute change that was imposed upon us. But everybody who's here, well done to you for coming along. Thank you so much. So please do your best to ignore our loud friends across there. Many of these people are simply misguided. Many of these people have had it bad in life. They've only ever been to university. They've only ever had houses in Milgay and in Murrayfield. And so they have to act out in some way. But fair play to them, they're using our British taxpayers' money very well indeed. It just shows you, if you can be funded by the British taxpayer, if all your NGOs, and literally, they've got a banner there, and I went through every single NGO that's listed under their banner, and every single one, apart from maybe two of them, are funded by us. We fund them. So people say, oh, they're much better organised than us. Yes, because we're paying them to be better organised. And one of the messages that we have to take home is next year, if we can get people into that parliament who are going to clear out the old guard, then they need to be looking at the account books. And they need to be saying, who can we defund of our taxpayers' money? Because it's absurd how we're paying for these people. It's beyond absurd. Anyway, let me get into the substance of my talk here today. Now, folks, we've got 5 speakers altogether, and when I've finished my first speech here, I'll just tell you who they're going to be, and we look forward to them all. We've got people here from all over. We've got Scottish Unionists, and I know for a fact we've also got Scottish Nationalists in the crowd. People, let's give them a cheer too, because they believe. They recognise that John Swinney is selling them out as well, selling out Scotland. So there is a Holyrood election on the 7th of May next year, and the establishment and media politicians and John Swinneys of this world do not want this immigration issue to be made real. They want to sweep it under the carpet, but we are ensuring that this is going to be an ongoing concern for them that they cannot avoid. Last year, for example, there was almost 1 million people came into the United Kingdom, long-term immigrants, legally as well. The year before that, there was 1.3 million. The year before that, there was 1.2 million. Now, these are legal immigrants who are here for a long time. How quickly is the country going to change if that is continuing? Now, here in Scotland, the figures are also massive, relatively speaking. According to the National Records of Scotland that released their immigration numbers report last month, a population bigger than the size of East Kilbride came into Scotland long term last year. Now that's 76,000 people last year. The year before that, a population bigger than Scotland's fifth largest town, Paisley, came into Scotland. 90,000 people came in that year, long term. Now this is a small country with a small population. These numbers are absolutely unsustainable, and it is a crying shame that the people in that parliament will try to sweep this under the carpet, or worse, double down and say we need even more. Of course we don't. We need to get these numbers under control. So we're rallying here today to bring together people from the Scottish Unionists and the Scottish Nationalists, people who might be rightward thinking, people who might be leftward thinking, to bring them all together, united under the proposition that there's too many people coming into Scotland and we need to lower the levels of legal and illegal immigration. And if we can make this an issue, then the politicians will have to take note for next year, and they'll have to decide whose side are we really on. Are we on the side of ourselves, or are we on the side of the Scots? So that's what we're doing. And make no mistake about the importance of rallying in this way. By rallying, we're ensuring, every one of us who turned up today is ensuring that the politicians understand that this is an issue. And we're regularly reminded of the elements of uncontrolled and unlimited mass immigration, the danger to our children. And a couple of weeks ago, we saw that disturbing case in Dundee with the two little girls as well. That's a matter for the courts to look at, but goodness me, none of our young people should be put into a situation like that. That alone tells us that we need to get the numbers massively reduced. So we're ensuring that the politicians know that this is a vital issue. And it affects our ability, for example, to find affordable accommodation. In the case of the channel crossers, it offends our sense of fairness and justice and respect for the rule of law. So our politicians need to tell us where they stand on this matter. Are they for a new population of long-term immigrants coming in every year the size of East Kilbride or Paisley? Or are they going to roll back and stop that? Because as I say, we're letting them know we're prioritising this issue. And simply, we are exercising our democratic right next year to vote for those parties who agree with us. We will no longer support the parties that perpetuate the open borders. We will clear out the people in that building who support open borders. Now, you ask John Swinney why he supports mass immigration, and his reasons are so poor as to be laughable. He says we've got a falling birth rate. All right, well, how does importing hundreds and thousands of male asylum seekers help our falling birth rate? I hadn't noticed that they were importing any women. The women would be the ones having children. So all they're doing is they are disproportionately increasing the male population of Scotland. How on earth is that helping the birth rate? People need to, if I worked for the newspapers, I would point that out to them and say, how's that helping? And even the legal families that they're importing from abroad, ready-made families, that's not doing anything to address the falling birth rate of the indigenous Scots. That's the issue. That's the issue we need to sort out. And so, how about we make it more affordable for young Scots to start a family? How about we give support to couples who are trying to rear children? How about we give tax breaks to families with children? We could make babies tax deductible. You know, the aim is to lower the cost of living so Scottish families can thrive. And a lower cost of living means more Scottish babies. That's the answer. Not importing a foreign-born population the size of his Kilbride or Paisley every year. Come on. So we don't need mass immigration to address the falling birth rate. And we need to hear far less of the lazy platitude, oh, let's just import more people. No, that's irresponsible. It's virtue signaling. It's behaving like an ostrich who's just happy to hide his head in the heather instead of doing the hard practical work to improve the situation. So this is a message that we're sending, folks. We're saying, do not ignore us, do not forget us, but understand our concerns. Stand up for us, protect us, and put the people of Scotland first in your efforts. And yes, to the extent that people in the rest of the world need our help, and yes, we can help them. To the extent that we're able to look after themselves in their own countries. It's called foreign aid. It's called going out and helping them for a year. Yeah, we can help them if they need help. But they don't need to come to the UK in their millions or to Scotland in their tens of thousands, because this is our country. We have rights. We deserve fairness as well. We deserve safety as well. We deserve decent living standards as well. We deserve room to breathe. So what about us, Mr. Swinney? Do we count? Do you even care, Mr. Swinney? The people here today are the patriotic Scots giving you that patriotic message. Now, we have a range of speakers here today who are going to speak about the issues related around mass immigration and fraudulent asylum seeking. Now, next after me was going to be a fellow called Johnny McGinty, who is one of the organisers and speakers at our first ever Enough is Enough rally in George Square last year, almost a year to the day, on the 7th of September. However, Johnny has one of those critical jobs where he has to be on call all the time, and right now he is at a job down in Stranraer. In fact, right now he's probably standing on the edge of a windmill blade in the middle of the Solway Firth, panel beating it back into shape. That's a serious job. That's a proper job. So he sends you his best, and he said he's going to do what he can to be at our next Enough is Enough rally. Shortly we'll have Ken Thomson just after me, and I'll introduce him in a moment. Now, the third speaker as well, I'm pleased to say, is Dr. Alan McManus. Now, Dr. Alan McManus spoke from our stage at our Free Speech Rules rally in George Square in April last year, when he spoke out against the restrictions in Humza Yousaf's Anti-Free Speech Act, which was passed into law last April. And the good thing about Dr. Alan McManus, from our perspective, is that he represents a Scottish nationalist political party, which is not the SNP, I should tell you, and which is not ALBA. And so that's a sign that people, even in that tendency, are coming around to realise. And I know you're all going to give him a very warm welcome. After Alan, we'll have Ryan McGinley of Rise Now Media. Ryan has been very active as a freedom campaigner, especially against the lockdowns. and he's going to be speaking about the international forces behind UK immigration. And then we will have this man on my left, who is Nick Mitchell of the We Say It podcast, who I'm pleased to say is the co-organiser of today's event with A Force for Good. Nick also spoke at a free speech rally last year on the importance of standing up for free speech, and he spoke down in Dover on the 19th of July when we went down to support people campaigning against the small boat invasion. And Nick will be speaking on an array of issues spanning from corrupt politicians in there to their pre-planned attack on British cultures and the general failures of the SNP. But I've said to Nick, we've only got 15 minutes, so keep the failures of the SNP to a minimum, otherwise we'll be here for 3 hours. And then finally, I'll wrap up the event by emphasising the importance again of what we're doing and looking at some more of the PC platitudes which we hear from the people in there. So folks, please welcome our second speaker, Ken Thomson, who is the Scottish leader of the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom Party. On its website, the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom Party describes itself as not left or right, but centre sensible, a unionist party which stands candidates across the UK and is creating alliances with other smaller parties through the BelmontAccord.org. Ken says that his party knows that there are many good Scottish unionists and Scottish nationalists who want to help create a prosperous, healthy and wealthy Scotland. Folks, please give a warm welcome to Ken. I suggest you just hold it in your hand.
Thank you, Alistair. Thank you, Alistair. Can you all hear me at the back there? Cool. I'm, Alistair says, Ken Thomson, leader of the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom, or the ADF party, as it's known. Not to be accused with the AFD in Germany, who seem to be dropping like flies at the moment, so hopefully the assassin is not dyslexic. Gets us mixed up. We were founded in 2019 by a GP of 40 years, Dr. Tek Kong, and he has worked hard to try and change the NHS and get some proper healthcare into society. And the NHS at the moment is a shell of its former self, been completely run down and oversubscribed by many foreign nationals coming in and using our services. And this cannot continue. We need to sort that out and start putting proper healthcare back into the system. We have formed a group called the BelmontAccord.org, and that was again founded in 2020 at the Belmont Hotel in Leicester, where we called for all nationalist and unionist and patriotic parties to come together, and that included the SDP and Reform and various other parties. And we found an agreement with the Alliance for Freedom and Democracy and the Freedom Alliance, and since then we've had various other parties join us. Sovereignty Party, who are a nationalist party, but they believe in the freedom of the Scottish people, and they are anti-immigration party. We are an anti-immigration party. We don't mind refugees, but we don't want fake refugees and fake asylum seekers coming to the country. We stand for the Rupert Lowe School of Thinking, which is detain and deport, and hold in camps, do not put up in five-star hotels. And we believe that our governments in Westminster and in Holyrood are completely destroying our country, not just through mass immigration, but through the socialist policies which they adopt. And these need to be changed, and we need candidates across the country who can stand and fight this communist dictatorship which we have. So we will stand in candidates with the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom in Scotland at the Scottish elections. along with our partners who will also be standing candidates at the elections. And we hope that people will join us to fight for what's right, to fight for our country, and deliver freedom for Scotland and for the UK. Thank you very much, people. Cheers.
It's very loud over there, isn't it? Now, we've had the leader of a small unionist party speak. Now we're going to have a candidate from a small Scottish nationalist party speak. The Scottish National Party in question is called Sovereignty, and I'm delighted that the candidate, Dr. Alan McManus, is with us today. Now, he's going to be a candidate for Sovereignty next year in Cumbernauld and Kilsyth. He's an author, an academic, a carer, a teacher and a law student, and he has forthright views on government overreach of executive power, especially since 2020, which have resulted in increasing limitation of individual rights, especially of freedom of expression and association. Oh, the people over there are so rude. We just don't use rude words. That's our weakness. We don't swear at people. We don't have it in our hearts to use rude words and swear at people. So they just get let rip. But you know what? We've got to take the high ground and that kind of stuff because goodness me. Anyway, Dr. McManus spoke from our stage last year at our Free Speech Rules rally in George Square, and he spoke against, as I say, the restrictions, the terrible restrictions of Hamza Yousaf's Anti-Free Speech Act, which is still in power. Now, Dr. Allen has written several books on topics of ethical controversy, and he tries, as is very clear, to see both sides and explore common ground. And isn't it wonderful that we do have people in Scotland willing to explore common ground? So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a very warm welcome to Dr. Alan McManus.
Thank you so much, Alistair, for that very warm welcome. Very similar to the welcome that I had in George Square last year. When I said to people, I'm Roman Catholic, I'm a Scottish nationalist, and I had the greatest welcome. So the message goes out that everyone is welcome here. Everyone is welcome in a democracy to express their views. And that's something that our friends over there, who will be joining later, but not for the same reasons that some of them are here, should learn. Some years ago, I was in Paisley, Gilmore Street, train station on the lower level, and I was using crutches, so I couldn't walk very fast. And a wee boy, he must have been all about 4, ran in from the street and ran across to the lift and pressed the button. And I was with a friend who's a wee bit shy, and I've got a big mouth. And I started shouting, "Son, where's your mummy? Where's your daddy?" And he pressed the button and got into the lift, and the lift went up. And I just lost it. And I'm like, who's with this wee boy? Who's with this wee boy? And my friend's like, Alan, shut up. But I don't shut up. So eventually the ticket seller came out and explained the situation. Fortunately, the lift came down again and the wee boy was still in it. So she grabbed him gently. And it turned out that the mummy was in the shopping centre across the road. And she had said to the wee boy, oh, we can't miss that train. So the wee boy had run across to stop the train for mummy. So she was very relieved that somebody had intervened. The reason why I had the confidence to do that day is called psychological safety. And this is something that's very crucial in safety critical industries like the nuclear industry, the petroleum industry, the aviation, shipping, and it's also recommended by the emergency services. Strangely, it's not supported by the Scottish Government or the Westminster Government or by the British press. The reason why it's not supported by them is, one, because they have a great problem with facts. For example, the fact that there's only really three types of human beings: men, women, and children. Children can be grouped together. Why is that news? Children can be grouped together because when they're little boys, little girls, their relative strength is not that different. But of course, as they get older, that changes, and that's why we should never have men in women's sports, etc. Men on average are taller, more muscular, stronger than women are. And that's why it's a biological imperative for all men everywhere to protect women and children. And it's a biological imperative for all women everywhere to protect children. So if you're asking men not to protect women and children, and you're asking women not to protect children, you're asking us not to be men and women. Now, as we know, sadly, that's exactly what they're asking us to do. Because the powers that be don't agree with nature. They want to improve it. They want to mess about with it. The British press also don't support facts, and one of the reasons for that is because they're no longer investigative journalists. They gave that up years ago. They're no longer even objective reporters. They're just journalists. They churn out the propaganda that their masters pay them for. They're only following orders. Another reason why these people don't care about women and children is because, well, let's put that in perspective. They don't care about men either, because anyone who's been through the family courts can tell you that. So, for example, in Scotland, on average, university students and staff are about 60% female. And yet, a couple of years ago, the University of Glasgow, for the people that it put through a disciplinary of its academic staff, 72% were men. And that's very common. So the thing is, these people don't like any of us. Why? Because we're human. Does that surprise you? Because didn't you know that humans are the problem in the planet? We're the problem. And they want to get rid of most of us. They want to wipe us out. Net zero is a scam. It's a dangerous scam. It's about monetizing nature. We are the carbon they want to reduce. So the British press call us far right and racist. Let's take those in turn. Well, far right means fascist. And what's a fascist? Fascism is the public-private relationship to the benefit of the elite. Well, I've just summed up all of government policy for the last few decades, haven't I? And as for racist, well, do you know who else they cry racist? Dr. Martin Luther King. So we're in good company, my friends. And do you know why that is? Because like him, we believe that people should be judged by the content of their character and not by the colour of their skin. So the British press are completely wrong when they say that we are embarrassed about the colour of the skin of the 8 paedophiles who were arrested and charged in Glasgow. We don't care about the colour of someone's skin. It's not us who wants two-tier justice. Right. We do recognise that, yes, there is a disproportionate amount of sexual violence from recently arrived immigrants. That's true. And that's why we have to state that as a fact and not shy away from that. And that's why we need to stand against judges who take someone's colour of their skin into consideration and say, oh, well, maybe you didn't really understand consent. You know, maybe you didn't understand that we have an age of consent here. And that is really racist, because that is saying that only us, white people, have got morals. That's the most racist thing you can say. That is so patronising. Another reason why these people can't face facts is that they don't like statistics. If you look on YouTube, you will find, if you search for gumballs immigration, you will find a 2010 TED talk by an American journalist. Now, it's recently been plagiarised by a female Labour minister, but look at the original one. He proves statistically that the USA does not have room to take in every single person on planet Earth who's earning under $2 a day. It's just not possible. And then he goes on to say, and it's true, that the people who are immigrating are not those who are most poor, because they don't have the wherewithal to do that. They can't pay the exorbitant fees of the smugglers' gangs. So what we're doing by taking in these vigorous young men is we're impoverishing their countries of origin, and that's not good for them. So you could say, yes, but they're not all economic migrants, but even if there were, then as Alistair's pointed out, and as Ken has pointed out, there's other ways to exert international pressure so that we have a more just and equitable international financial system. The Be Kind Brigade are not doing that. I don't think that someone who works in India all day and someone who works in Indiana all day should have a different standard of living. That's just common sense. They're not talking about that, but we are. There's all sorts of pressure that we can put on people. And talking about asylum seekers, one trick that we miss is putting pressure through our churches, through our NGOs, other charities, on countries that have such a poor record of civil liberties that they create asylum seekers. So we could be trying to make life more bearable so that people don't have to flee their countries. The Be Kind Brigade, and I mean the Uni Party, the Tories, Labour, Lib Dems, the Greens, the SNP, because they're all branches of the self-same thing. They are the ones who are supporting foreign wars. They are the ones who are supporting the arms industry. All these people over there have been, well, most of them, unfortunately, have been supporting the line of fire between Russia and Ukraine. What's that got to do with us? Why did millions of our money go to that laundromat north of the Black Sea? That's what I'd like to know. To get sniffed up somebody's nose and buy a few super yachts. That's not justice. How is it helpful to give money to foreigners to blow up other foreigners? How is that kind? As for Be Kind, I have stood in court on behalf of asylum seekers and refugees. I have heard their horrendous stories, some of which at least will be true. I don't need some wealthy white woman from Morningside, some NIMBY from Bear's Den who wears Refugees Welcome across her t-shirt on her way to her macrame class, whose husband trots off in the Beamer to trade in third world debt. I don't need her telling me to be kind, because she is not going to have to explain to her daughter when she's been sexually molested or raped on the way back from primary school by vigorous young men recently arrived in the country. She is not going to have to explain, oh, don't be racist, darling, because they just don't understand and you must have provoked them. You weren't covered from head to foot in black. You might have been showing your ankles. Martin Luther King had a dream. Let's keep to that dream. It's really embarrassing to stand up for the vulnerable, for women and children. And I intend, as do you, I'm sure, to continue to be as embarrassing as we can to protect women and children, to stop the boats, and to make sure that that lot don't turn Martin Luther's beautiful dream into a nightmare. Thank you.
Fantastic speech from Dr. Alan McManus. Thank you so much for that. Now, the next speaker was going to be Ryan, and I'm looking around and I think Ryan is running late. So I'm going to do a little bit. I'm going to fill in for 2 or 3 minutes, and if Ryan's not here, we'll pass straight to Nick. Now, one of the things that lot like to tell us is that Scots have been in our history immigrants. We have gone abroad. And so the subtext of what they say is that we have no right to stand against mass immigration today. Well, that is, of course, nonsense. They would only have a point if today there were tens of thousands of us going to Nigeria for jobs, if there was tens of thousands of us going to Somalia and Ghana for jobs. They would have a point if today there were tens of thousands of Scots seeking asylum in Afghanistan or Eritrea. Yeah, they might have a point then. But to talk about ancient history as if it's relevant today is just complete nonsense. But even if we want to talk about history, let's look at the facts. Between 1717 and 1775, that approximate 60-year period, there were 70,000 Scottish people who left for the USA in a 60-year period back in the 18th century. Last year, as I've just said, there were 76,000 long-term immigrants into Scotland last year. So the numbers are not even relevant. We left as well to lands that were empty, that were requiring industry and entrepreneurship, and we settled and built those lands into what they are today. They did not arrive in mass in already established nations. So the historic comparison between the Scottish historic experience and what's happening today is just another piece of nonsense that they use to baffle us in order to promote their open border agenda. Well, we're exposing it, folks. We're exposing it today, and we'll continue to expose it all the time. Now, folks, it was my great honour to stand with this man down in Dover back on the 19th of July with a large number of people, largely from the south of England and thereabouts, who were holding a rally on Dover Beach to stop the boats. And I'm glad to say Nick has helped us organise today's event. He's a great chap. He runs something called the We Say It podcast, which you'll get on Rumble and also on X. We Say It podcast, all one word. Nick, without further ado, let me pass the microphone to you.
So, thanks everyone for coming today. As you saw from my previous speeches, I don't tend to have bits of paper in my hand. I normally just let it come off the cuff. But today I had to get it right. So I took the time and I wrote it down. So I hope I don't get it wrong. Because if I mess up my own speech, then I'm done. So basically, I'm Nick, as Alistair said, from the We Say It podcast. And thanking Alistair again for helping organise this. He's got the reach, I've got the ideas. So why are we here? is very simple. Enough is enough. So for me, the time has come now that this SNP government cannot hold another 4 years in power. Now I said this last year before the Labour government got in, that if the Labour government got in, it would be the beginning of the end for the UK. Look what's happening. Just look. So this is what lies ahead in another 4 more years on SNP leadership, right? Well, should I say failureship? What we've endured over the past 18 years. All the SNP can think about is independence. So, what does an independent Scotland look like? Can they tell us? No, they can't. So I'll tell you what an independent Scotland looks like. First line of protocol for a Scotland that's independent is gaining entry back into the EU. Which comes with a free membership to the ECHR. And very, very quickly, this once beautiful country will be ridden with illegal immigrants that we cannot have in this country. And as you probably saw during the week, Mr. Swinney decided to stand up in, well, wherever he was in the sunshine, the leaf, as he said, refugees are welcome here. Well, guess what? No, they are not! We have to stop a foreign entity controlling Western politics. We need to end all foreign aid and put the money back into Scotland. I am Scotland first and Scotland only! Now this is all part of a bigger plan, which is called the system. Problem, reaction, solution. They've created the problem by allowing all these immigrants, legal and illegal, into this country. They knew what reaction they were going to get, and they've got it. And guess what? They have the solution. Surprise, surprise. What is the solution? Digital IDs. Well, fuck you, government! Now, as Alistair said, I gave a speech down in Dover a couple of months ago about using the terms of left and right. We need to stop using these terms because that is what gives the system power to divide and conquer. We need to stand united as one. Now let's just take it back, as Alistair said, about the failures of the SNP government. But we've not got 3 hours, we've got a couple of minutes. So first of all, Scotland is the drug death capital of Europe. So what does the SNP do? Let's build a safe drug consumption facility. Good idea that. Not. What else did they decide to do? Well, you know what? It's too long to list. It's enough of the SNP lies, corruption and deceit and failures of this country. So you're potentially standing thinking, so who do we vote for come next year? Right, that is a question. Now I'm going to spend the next 6 to 8 months digging into every single party's manifesto, promises, failed, problems, solutions, etc. And once I've come to my conclusion, I will be posting my results on who I think we should all vote for. Now, we've got a bit of time. Let's use this time wisely. So the time has come to put your petty differences aside, stand side by side and face this problem head on. The people who sit in that building do not give a flying fuck about us, and they never have and they never will. So the time has come. Raise your flags, and together we say enough is enough. This has to be closed. We cannot sustain any more of these illegal immigrants coming into this country. And you know what? I'm not even going to beat about the bush. They are raping our women. They are murdering our children. And they are going to turn this beautiful country into a demolition war zone that we will never ever recover from if we allow this to happen. So again, once again, raise your flags and say, enough is enough! Thank you. So our host of this evening, this afternoon, is currently busy with a police force that is more interested in raising capital for this corrupt government than actually protecting the people of Scotland. Am I allowed to say that, or is that hate speech? Do I give a shit? Do I not? Do I care what the police do? No. Do I respect the police now? No, I don't. Why do we not? Because they're more interested in protecting that way over there who do not have a fucking clue why they're here. They were going about the far right being masked up, being mass warriors, etc. Can you see a single mask in this crowd? No. How many masks do you see over there? How many brainless people do you see standing on the wrong side of history? They say that we are the killers, we are the racists, etc. We are the far right. Well, you know what? How contradicting is it, right? And I don't know if anybody's noticed this. Standpipe anti, well, what is it? Stand up to Islamophobia. Right, okay. But in the same sentence, stand up against anti-Semitism. The very people who is blowing fuck out of Palestinians, they are protecting. How fucking dumb are you? Blame the billionaires, not the refugees. Well, guess what? It's the billionaires that are controlling every aspect of your life. You do not have a clue about what is going on in the real world. You're that brainwashed by propaganda that you think we are on the wrong side. Well, guess what? The time will come, people, where they will call on us to protect them and their children and their lives. So, I see that our three gentlemen of today, Mr. Alistair McConnachie, is ready to come up and close this out and give you some very very good home truths about where this country is going to head if we do not get this under control. So one more time, raise your flags and say, enough is enough!
I did. Thank you so much, Nick, for that barnstorming effort. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Nick from the We Say It podcast. Find him on X. I've been thinking of a chant which we could possibly use. And you know what? I don't like to swear. Nick's maybe a wee bit different from me on that one. But it's say it loud, hear us shout. John Swinney's sold us out. Say it loud, hear us shout. John Swinney sold us out. Say it loud, hear us shout. John Swinney sold us out. Okay, all together. Say it loud, hear us shout. John Swinney sold us out. Say it loud, hear us shout. John Swinney sold us out. Say it loud, say it shout. John Swinney sold us out. All right. Back to some serious stuff. Now, Ryan appears to have, it looks like his vehicle broke down en route here, unless he is in the. Okay, it might be too late then, but okay. Anyway, let me say some more stuff. And this has been a groundbreaking event because it is the first immigration restriction event, the first public one to be held in Edinburgh. And I just want to thank the speakers that have come up already, and they've raised quite a few points. From Alan, we heard the importance of watching out for and defending our children, of judging people on the basis of their character, of looking at ways in which we can help countries develop economically rather than bringing all their people here, and so importantly, not getting involved in these foreign conflicts which tend just to drive. Keep going every day so they don't have to. And they've got their best English working on how do we convince the Scots that they should accept English immigration. And their answers do not have anything like the moral and intellectual clarity that you've got here today. For example, they'll say we need immigration for economic growth. However, this argument only serves the needs of the financial class in the city. The billionaires that they're talking about, it's the billionaires that stay in their interest. It's the billionaires. So the government wants more people to come in so it can tax more people, so it can raise more tax revenue, pay the national debt. It's the billionaires. It's the billionaires run wealthy. Both people pay more taxes, and more taxes mean that the billionaires can get their loans paid back. And so anything that stops immigration is always going to make the billionaires nervous, because they're going to say, where's our money going to come from? Where's the tax money going to come from? So in other words, the financiers want to import more labour so that the workers will pay more taxes, which will fund the interest payments on the national debt, which these financiers will collect and stuff in their pockets. So that's a money-making scam, and that's part of why the City of London and so many economic interests would actually be siding over with these people at the moment for more mass immigration. It's always strange to see these people who would normally be considered on the quote-unquote left of politics try to make the case about why we need more immigrants so they can pay more taxes, so they can pay the loans that are owed to the billionaires. It's really quite ironic, quite frankly. Truly, these people don't understand the extent to which they're being played. Another one, of course, is the affordable housing. When we say it's hard enough to get a flat these days, they'll say, oh, we just need to build more flats. Well, you can't possibly build flats at the rate at which people are coming in. There is a new town of long-term immigrants the size of East Kilbride coming in every year. We simply cannot be building flats and homes at that rate. Send them home! And are we meant to give every single man who's accepted as a refugee, is he meant to get his own flat or something? No, building on such a scale is impossible, even in the best of times. And when the government then enters the private rental market and says, we'll buy up your flats in order to give to the refugees that they have a legal obligation to house, then that's only pushing up the price of private rents for the rest of us. So all of these things are felt by us and are unfair to us. Unfair to us. You know, we shouldn't be building homes deliberately to house immigrants. If there's any homes left over after we've housed the indigenous population, then we can think about giving it to the incomers. But if there's no spare housing, then there should be no immigration. Yeah. How about we start getting people into that parliament who will point out these things? How about we get people in there who will point out that John Swinney and the SNP executive is economically persecuting its own citizens and making up excuses for doing so? Unacceptable! You know, I have this phrase, we have to stand in our own shoes. We're always being asked to put ourselves in other people's shoes. Oh, what would you do if you lived in Afghanistan? Wouldn't you do the same thing? Listen, I'm standing in my own shoes. I'm looking out for myself on this matter. We should not be expected to feel sorry for the rest of the world before we think of ourselves. We have to stand in our own shoes. We should not be expected to take them off and give them to other people who already have their own shoes, who already are walking in a country of their own. Sometimes we have to think of ourselves. Many of us have a hard enough time walking in our own shoes, so don't ask us to ignore our own interests, John Swinney. Now, let me just be clear. Of course, we should treat everyone with dignity and respect. That's a given. But the point is, they can't all live here. Treating people with dignity and respect is not the same as abandoning our laws of entry. Treating people with dignity and respect is not the same as advocating for open borders. You know, we can believe in the brotherhood of man without wanting the entire brotherhood of man to live in Scotland. And yes, of course, it's important to be fair and as tolerant as we can and as compassionate as we are able to others. That's a given. But it doesn't mean giving up on our own interests. A policy of mass immigration may seem fair and tolerant and compassionate to the people who are coming in, but it's not necessarily fair and tolerant and compassionate to us, the people who already live here. You know, we want these things too. We want fairness for us. We want tolerance for us. We want safety for ourselves. We want compassion for ourselves and our families. We want our interests to be respected, and there's nothing wrong about asserting our interests. You know, this is our country. This is our country. It's not a country for the world. The people over there want there to be no borders. They don't believe in nations. The people over here believe in nations. This is our nation. This is our country. We have a right to stand up for it. We have a right to defend it. We have a right to use the democratic system to vote people into that parliament who will stand on this common sense opinion. No more virtue signalling, no more empty emotionalism, no more PC platitudes. It's time for practical solutions. And before I wind up, let me just give you some practical solutions. Let me help the people in there with some ideas. Restricting legal immigration is very easy. Legal immigrants only come in through the proper legal channels. Legal immigrants can only come in through the proper legal channel if they have a work visa or a student visa or a family visa. If you cut down on the number of visas that you give and you can cut it down to zero, that means nobody comes in. It's very easy to restrict legal immigration. Now, from the perspective of the MSPs in there and the Scottish Executive, they should use their power to pressure the British government to restrict visas, especially into Scotland. As for stopping the Channel crossers, that's also very easy. We leave the UN Refugee Convention. That's an international agreement which essentially legalizes crossing the Channel in a dinghy, providing you're doing it to claim asylum. So we leave the UN Refugee Convention. That will enable us to declare entry via the Channel to be utterly, absolutely illegal. That means anybody who does it will be sent to prison for breaking the law. Hey, we may even have to build a small purpose-built prison especially for those guys. But here's the thing, we won't have to have many people in it for very long until everybody else gets the message. In fact, everybody else will get the message within 24 hours and they'll go off to another country or they'll spend the rest of their lives in France, but they won't bother crossing the English Channel if it means they're going to prison. Now, Keir Starmer won't do that, of course, but what we can do is we can get that conversation going. No more of this empty emotionalism. Oh, they're all poverty, they're all persecuted. No, they're not. They're young men coming from a safe country called France. They can stay in France and let France deal with it. Another couple of things that we need to do. I know these guys agree with me. Fantastic. We've got to abolish the concept known as indefinite leave to remain, which enables anybody to have virtually full access to the British welfare system after only 5 years legal residence. That has to go completely. There's absolutely no reason for indefinite leave to remain. It won't surprise you. Edward Heath introduced that probably just on the same time as he sent us into the European Union. So we have to stop indefinite leave to remain, and we have to end easy British citizenship. You can become a British citizen after 6 years, 1 year after getting your indefinite leave to remain. And that's absolutely absurd. Why do we even give out British citizenship?
Yeah, why?
Why? It should be more like 25 years if we give it out at all. And basically, the general principle here is that if you're an immigrant working in the country, you don't have access to the welfare system at all. And if you need access, well, maybe you're going to have to go home and access it back in your previous country.
Well said.
And, you know, we can do these things. We can do, it's under the plastic bag, the plastic boxes. It's in one of the plastic boxes. All these things can be done, and they can be done humanely and fairly. And so we say to the politicians, start talking about these practical solutions and start delivering them. I wrote that book of practical solutions to protect our country. You can get it on Amazon. It's called, just search for Protect Our Country. It's 315 pages of the kind of common sense things that you've been hearing here today. If you're not going to read it, I suggest you simply buy a copy and send it to your local MSP and say, you have a look at this, because it's perfectly practical, perfectly humane, it's all fair, it's all respecting the dignity. Whether the SNP MPs can read is another matter, of course, yes. So we're saying to them, if you won't deliver these practical solutions, if you prefer your empty platitudes, then next year we will vote for people who will deliver these practical solutions. We will bring people together around the idea of immigration restriction, and we will lever that block vote next year at the 2026 Holyrood election in May in order to clear out the Open Border Brigade MSPs and get some common sense back into our parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, you all made history today, and you've panicked the establishment in there who've been watching. There's no doubt about them. You've annoyed them. They don't like to see any opposition. But hey, it's going to become a regular feature now of their lives. So thank you all for coming out today. I want to say a big thank you to the police for making sure that everything was safe. And they've asked us that when we disperse this area, please, if you can go out that dispersal area there. Sorry about the problems getting here, but we can't. We leave the police to arrange a certain amount for everybody's safety. Ladies and gentlemen, do you think we should be back in front of this building next year in the run-up to Holyrood? Absolutely. Well, there's some dates. There's some dates that would be fitting, and we might have to do it more than once as well, because we really need to keep this going. Keep this going. We'll see you then. But for now, folks, God bless you all and have a safe journey home. Thank you.
Are we ending? Ending, eh?
Very safe. Honestly, man. Send me a friend's request when you don't even know. I'm moving here. I'm moving to the seaside. There. I was doing for 2 nights with the dogs right at the beach, and I went to see a flat, and I'm just going to have to see another one. I'm moving out to 28 years.
Or something like this. We're lucky with the weather. We're lucky with the weather. Yes.
I'll check it out. I've got it. Check it out online. Yeah. You get the t-shirts. No, I get you. And you contact me, then I can contact you. Yeah, you too. Take care. Here? All right. See you later, pal. Don't say goodbye to Silver.
Okay, folks, we're packing up now. We're going to certificate, and so we're just slowly heading off. Thank you for watching. We'll have the extra videos, which is up with the next 48 hours. Thank you to everybody who came along. You really did. Thank you so much. I don't know whether I was going to fix up because I hadn't heard that. So.